Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hey everybody, the couple behind the band These Beautiful Ruins are my guests today. They just released a single and video of the song I Will Rise with the help of Josiah Prince. Let's find out more. Well, I have Matt and Kristen here from These Beautiful Ruins. How you guys doing?
Doing well, Cindy. Thank you for having us on.
I want to just start right in, and I want you to tell us your story. Kristen, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So ever since I was really young, I played music. I started playing guitar at the age of 10. I taught myself how to play guitar, and I sang with my mom a lot in church growing up. My dad was an avid piano player, and they still play on worship teams today at our church. So music was always a big part of my life. And so was being in church and growing up in a Christian household. So I'm really thankful for my upbringing. You know, my mom and dad taught me about the love of Jesus from a very young age and really instilled that in me from a young age. And as I've gotten older and things that we all face as we walk through life together, I'm grateful to have the roots that I have, because had I not been taught about the love of Jesus from a young age, I feel like I wouldn't be holding on to my faith as strong as I am today. So I'm really grateful for my parents instilling that within me. And my parents were youth pastors as well as I was growing up. And I led a couple of organized youth bands. From there, it kind of inspired me to write songs, to continue in pursuing my own music. And in doing that, I wrote a lot of my own songs and wrote a lot of my own music. And over time, that's kind of how me and Matt met eventually. There come a point where I was trying to network with other musicians locally, and came across Matt on social media and realized that he was
Facebook of all things.
Yeah, on Facebook of all things. That's how we met. And from there, you know, we talked about the Lord, and we talked about music and hit it off right away, and that's how These Beautiful Ruins came about.
Matt, give us a rundown on your life, because you've had quite the journey.
Yeah, you're right. It is a crazy story. I absolutely love my wife's story too. Like, I talked to a guy today that was like, I don't have that big crazy story or anything like that. It's like, you don't have to. Like, if we all had the same story, that'd be pretty boring, right? But yeah, I grew up in a home very similar to Kristen's upbringing. My parents both raised me in church religiously. I was in church every Sunday from the time I was a little baby until I was in my 20s. But all through that time, there was a lot of stuff going on at home that was just opposite from what I was hearing in church. My dad was struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. My mom never really struggled with those things. She was like my safe place. You know, like when she was around, things were good, things were safe. And then when she would be gone, that's when things would hit the fan with me and my dad. Without jumping too deep into that, you know, we would just lock horns pretty hard. And eventually, long story short, it spiraled me into trying to find myself. Like I had severe anger problems, and doctors were putting me on multiple different types of medication to try to get my mind under control and try to slow the wheels down. The gears just would not stop turning in my mind, and, you know, doing terrible in school, things like that. I eventually ended up just turning to drugs. And funny enough, I was in a Metallica cover band back when I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. I know. Crazy, huh? We thought we were Metallica. It was pretty fun. But, you know, everybody in the band was on drugs for the most part. And me and the drummer were like best friends. And I remember one night after the show, we went back to his house. The rest of the band members fell asleep, and me and the drummer stayed up, and he introduced me to some stuff. I remember being so high out of my mind, just looking at myself in the mirror and just feeling like, man, this is what I've been searching for. This is me. And finally felt like I found myself for the first time, and just staring at myself in the mirror. And then I remember that sensation of being high just faded away in about an hour and a half. Right? All the problems were there still, like, and even worse, you know, without diving deep into that. We all know how addiction works. And and how it manifests and just gets worse and worse and worse. And so that's what mine did. It got worse really quick. I ended up becoming a pretty big drug dealer. Pretty quickly, I started selling drugs in school, and I was showing up to school on acid and ecstasy, selling that stuff in the hallways. It just got really bad really, really quick. And like I just felt like I was home with those people. Through my addiction, I ended up becoming a 4-time convicted felon at the age of 18. And right before that, I'd gotten expelled from my school. I went to like 3 different alternative schools. I remember being in this one room, little log cabin classroom, and where I was just with like the worst of the worst kids with these severe anger issues. And I'm like, man, there's something wrong with all these guys, you know. And there I was sitting there right among them, like, dude, I'm just as bad, if not worse, right?
Right.
And man, I've got some major issues going on here. You know, it's funny. I didn't know that there was anything outside of that. That, man, there's really people who are living clean and who have peace and who have found hope and love. And I had those things with my parents. They're amazing people. Through God and through Jesus and restoration, God's restored my relationship with my dad, and he eventually got clean as well. We actually got clean together. So about age 18, I became a 4-time convicted felon, and I was like literally out at 3 o'clock in the morning, busting into cars and kicking down doors of businesses to rip their safe out of their business, drag it out of the building with a chain hooked to my car, like literally dragging it down the street, past a jailhouse that I spent a year in. For that last charge that I got, I had to do a year in a county jail. I had gotten in trouble with inside the jail, got into a couple scuffles. I'd done a few things to get put in solitary confinement, and I was in there for like 3 months, and I was in a 10-foot by 10-foot room, just surrounded by concrete, and you can't even read a book in there. Like they take everything from you. I remember finding myself in a place where I was literally pursuing darkness. I was becoming very comfortable with it, and I wasn't really searching for a light. But I remember that night I cried out to Jesus for the first time, and I remember him coming in. I remember him being there, and I remember telling him, like, I know I'm a wreck and I've done a lot of bad things, and I have no idea how I'm going to stay clean. But I just remember that peace. The Bible says it's a peace that passes all understanding. And at that time it did. It surpassed everything that I could possibly understand. And I just remember his light coming into that dark room, that really cold room that I was in. And I can feel it right now as we're talking. Just his love, his immeasurable love coming in there and holding me. I want to say for the first time, I'm sure he was holding me for a lot longer than that, but like that was the first time I think I invited him into my life. You know, Kristen and I have really been digging into like Revelation, and that verse, Revelation 3:20, has been sticking with us. Like, behold, I stand at the door and knock, and anybody who opens the door, I will come in and I will enter within them, and they will eat with me. Obviously, we know he's talking about the restoration. I will come in and restore you. I'll come in and fix it all. That's literally what it's been. I accepted Jesus that night in 2009 within a 10-foot by 10-foot room. I was court ordered by the judge to go to NA meetings and AA meetings. At the time, I was just like, sure, I'll go to your stupid meetings, you know, just to get out of my mom's house. That was my mindset back then. It was like, you know, I just had this moment with Jesus for the first time in my life. My mind was immediately like on these dark thoughts. They put me on a year of home incarceration and 5 years of probation. So I wasn't allowed to even walk out on my mom's deck. I was just bound to her house, or else cops would show up. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go to your silly meetings just to get out of my mom's house. Long story short, I relapsed many times. I remember I just could not figure out how to stay clean, even after accepting Jesus. I just kept finding myself stumbling and just falling and falling and falling, but I would always get back up. And eventually I changed all the people that I was hanging out with, all those things. Like they say you should change all old people, places, and things. As soon as I applied that in my life, I got clean and I stayed clean. And so my clean date is October 2nd, 2011.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And, you know, all glory to God, because I know that it's not on my own power. I feel like I've just made a decision on things that I'm not going to pursue anymore. And I feel like he's absolutely lifted drug addiction or the thought of drugs or alcohol from my mind and erased it. Bible, it talks about that as well, like the renewing of your mind is such a real thing. He comes in and completely erases certain things that we've struggled with. Just an amazing power. as we all know. But as far as like getting into music, I had been playing music my whole life from a little kid. And like I told you, I was in a Metallica cover band. And then eventually through that story, it's a longer story, but I'll try to keep it shorter for time. But Kristen reached out to me one day on Facebook Messenger, and I thought it was a total scam. I was like, oh, there's no way this beautiful girl is talking to me. And, of course, went through her photos. I was like, oh, she's got like 3,000 pictures. So this might actually be a real person, and man, just thankful for the Lord. He brought our music together. We know our entire purpose for our being. The reason why our feet hit the floor is for our marriage and for each other, but to pursue Jesus and to pursue his people, like through our music and through our ministry. Yeah.
I saw a quote on your social media that said, "We exist to light up the darkness."
Oh, yeah. It's funny. We put that on all of our pages. So like on our TikTok, our Instagram, Facebook.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just simply put, that really gets down to what our mission is, is to be a light in the dark, not to sound cliche, but, that's really what it comes down to with our music and just with our life. When we engage with people and talk to people and through our music is just to help people who are in a really dark place and let them know that there's hope and that you can overcome whatever you're going through.
Absolutely.
Through Christ.
Mm-hmm. That verse from John, I believe it's John chapter 1, verse 5, says the light shines in the darkness and no amount of darkness could ever extinguish it. And I think that's something that Kristen and I have just seen. We've all seen, I know we've all seen that. But that's certainly what God's been for us and so many other things. But he's definitely been the light in the dark, and we've seen the dark never extinguishing his light, And so that's probably a lot of the reason why we do that, too, and just kind of have that up there as a banner, I guess.
These beautiful ruins. Is there a history behind that? The name?
Honestly, just back when we first started, we were just like, yeah, we got to think of a cool band name. What's a cool band name we could come up with? And we wanted it to have some meaning. And we don't know if God just kind of planted it in our heads or whatever, but These Beautiful Ruins just kind of came to our mind. And
yeah, it was actually Kristen that came up with the band name. It just kind of fell out of her mouth one day.
It's like, how about These Beautiful Ruins?
Yeah,
and
she just kind of uttered that. And I was like, these what?
Yeah,
These
beautiful ruins. Yeah. I guess the name kind of speaks for itself, but we're all ruined until we come to know the Lord, and he makes us beautiful again. He takes our ruins and makes them beautiful. So These Beautiful Ruins.
I thought it appropriate with your stories because ruins have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
They may have had a good history. They may have had a bad history.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw a quote that said, "Ruins illuminate the fragile, fleeting nature of life."
Oh, man.
Ooh.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
We just can't highlight God and his hand. We just can't. Kristen and I, as you hear our story together and our different upbringings and things like that, and it's the most unlikely outcome, in my opinion. It's the only thing that makes sense is that God ordained it. It was almost like a divine appointment.
Yeah.
There are these moments in our life where, and I'm sure you've witnessed that too with Dan, but there's these divine appointments where God, it is completely clear that God has ordained this and made this happen.
Absolutely something we've seen and experienced in our life. One divine appointment that we have stacks on another one, on another one, and on another one. And you say, okay, well, this is a blessing to you that I'm doing this. Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all those other divine appointments before.
Yeah.
Lining up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every little interaction that you have on the stage, every interaction you have at the merch booth will matter. And every mile and every band breakdown and all the things that happen on tour and stuff, we appreciate you. We appreciate y'all's sacrifice because musicianaries are changing people's lives. They're saving them and they're helping change them. So.
Hey, absolutely love that. And thank you, Cindy.
And thank you for that reminder, too, because me and Matt were talking about this the other day. He and I are kind of the same way, or up until recently. Usually we can just kind of be one track minded and we're in a rush, rushing around and trying to focus on things. And we've talked about just, really slowing down and just making sure we take the time for any appointment that we have with him, because you never know like what God could be trying to speak to you, and just making sure you're taking time for those people and have their attention, and just slowing down. And ever since, like, we've really been mindful of that. Like, it's just been amazing to see.
Yeah, we've just been more intentional. I think it takes those kind of experiences because they don't happen often. At least they haven't for us.
At least you don't recognize them often.
At least, yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like when it shows up, you know that God set all this up, like completely, just no doubt. So now, like Kristen said, we're just more intentional. We pray that those appointments would show up.
Yeah.
And that he would put people in front of us and to hopefully shine a light in and give a hope shot to, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you guys have been a band since 2016?
Yeah.
That's right. She had a solo project called Kristen Nicole when I met her, and she was slinging the hair, man. She was already doing the rock stuff, Cindy. So you would have loved it, right?
Yes, I would have.
You know, at the time, Kristen made me wait like 6 months before we got into a relationship. She had a need for an electric guitar player, and I was like, you know, of course, I'm trying to play all the right chords. No pun intended. Eventually, I don't know, God just like spoke to both of us and we're like, you know, we should bring our music together and form something unique and just different. We feel like God was communicating with us like what our audience needed to hear. It's ultimately his audience, right?
Well, we released our first single back in 2017, which was our song Lord Come Down. After that, we released our second single, What If We Could Heal, and then I Will Rise, which is our latest single. But to backtrack just a little bit, we got married back in 2019. And this year we're coming up on 5 years, October 5th, our 5-year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. And but yeah, like, and also apart from just these beautiful ruins, we've also led worship in a lot of churches as well, in between all that. And so just trying to balance like worship ministry and these beautiful ruins.
Yeah, we always tried to find like a perfect balance between the two. That was kind of like the idea. And if we're being transparent, we struggled with that. I was on staff in multiple different churches, and we both obviously teamed up in that as well. And whether that was youth worship or just like main worship services within a church, that actually led us to Michigan. And I took a role on there about a year and a half ago. Was it about a year and a half or 2 years ago? So Chris and I actually moved away from family and took on a full-time position at a church in Michigan. And it was an absolutely incredible experience, and just the people we met, the team that we had, leadership and everything. It's always cool because you meet so many new people, you know, and hear their stories and like where they're at in their walk, and it helps you grow and helps widen and deepen your faith and things like that. But you know, that's what it's always been about for us, is just people. We were convicted while we were up in Michigan that we weren't putting enough effort into our music with these beautiful ruins, and like God was calling us specifically to go and minister to people who wouldn't normally walk into a church building, you know. And so we made a big decision. That there were other decisions among that on why we left that ministry and came back home to Louisville. Family being one of them. Family was a big one. You know, there were some things going on back here personally with my family, and we just didn't feel like, you know, our ministry was back here at home. And if our family's struggling, we need to be there with them. And you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, there were just multiple reasons why we made that call, but one of them was our project with these beautiful ruins. We just felt like we had put it on the back burner for a couple years, and we just were not putting enough into it. And so we came back home and started writing, and we've got like almost an album worth of music just sitting in our Dropbox right now. But one of the songs that came up was I Will Rise. And we had been in contact with Josiah Prince from Disciple 3 years or something like that. For some reason, it took like 3 years to get in that studio, man. But it finally worked out, and we got in there, and it was probably another one of those divine appointments. His friendship, you know what kind of guy Josiah is. We just had an incredible time with him. And
Top tier,
man. You already know. Yeah, it's been such an honor to work with him.
Speaking of Josiah Prince from Disciple and the Ranch Studio, I have a little sneaky surprise.
Oh boy.
What is it? Oh no.
I have a couple of clips from Josiah.
What?
What?
I just messaged him a few questions. So I asked Josiah, what was it like working with these beautiful ruins? And as far as the new single, I Will Rise, what was your role?
Hey, Josiah Prince here. I run a studio in Nashville, Tennessee called The Ranch, working with a lot of great rock artists. And These Beautiful Ruins is one of them. So I produced their single, I Will Rise. We've been talking for years, actually, about working together. But whenever we finally started the process to pick a single to work on, they had written some songs and I had kind of given some feedback and we were looking at trying to pick the best one, and then they wrote a new song that they brought in, and right away I was like, oh, this is the one. And it's called I Will Rise. And usually in these situations when I'm producing, I am doing, co-writing on a song or helping make the song better, stronger, whatever it needs. But I tell you what, right away from the get-go, the demo they sent me of that song was just perfect. It did not need any help in the writing department at all. It was just so strong and emotional. So it's very fun to work on. And looking forward to doing more stuff with them.
Wow.
Oh.
You're dropping bombs over here. That's awesome. We were not expecting that at all.
Yeah. I mean, one, emotional, because that is just so.
What an honor
such an honor and so sweet to hear from him.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an absolute honor to be able to work with him and to hear him say that about the song and things. It's just, that's a dream. That's just amazing to hear. All glory to God.
No, seriously, that's such an honor to hear that come from Josiah.
Yeah.
Just absolutely amazing. And we feel blessed to be able to work with him and not just musically, but just to even be friends with him, Mm-hmm. It's been pretty incredible just right off the start. And just like he was saying, for some reason, I Will Rise just came to us. It was just almost immediate. This is usually how our songwriting works. Just really quick. Kristen will usually bring me a chorus or first verse. So Kristen had already written the first verse and chorus of I Will Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. I felt like it was standing out from the rest of them. And so I'll usually come in and write the second verse and bridge. For some reason, I'm a second verse and bridge kind of guy. And so I wrote all the second verse and the bridge. And then we sent it through Dropbox to Josiah, and he, just like he said in the message, he immediately responded, was like, oh yeah, because I think we were looking at a different song at the time. We weren't getting that big of a reaction out of him as whenever he heard I Will Rise, it was like, oh yeah, that's the one. This is the one we're doing. I think he kind of told us.
Yeah.
The song was structurally, lyrically, and with the instruments and everything, guitar parts, it was finished. It was complete when we brought it to him, but we were going to go in a different direction and come swinging for the fences in the beginning of the song. We're just going to come out like the chorus, mm-hmm. But Josiah jumped in and was like, hey, I've actually been playing. I created a piano melody. If you guys want to hear it. Now, if you hate it, just let me know and we'll just trash it. And it's like, Josiah, really? Send the piano melody right now.
Immediately.
Yesterday.
That's great.
Literally, Kristen and I listened. He sent it over. He sent it in an MP3 and we listened to it. And we're like, we couldn't unhear it. And we're like, oh yeah, so let's throw that in there for sure. That's happening.
That's awesome.
We absolutely love the piano intro. So the intro of the song is Josiah. Also, I mean, he just, lyrically it was already done, but when we were in the studio, Kristen was doing vocals, recording vocals. Anytime we were both recording vocals, he is just so good about making the song stronger. We were singing it a different way, and he was like, hey, let's try this. And I guarantee you this is going to make it stronger. And there are many moments throughout I Will Rise where Josiah's hand, his vision, his eyes, his ears were on that and kind of shaping things a little bit.
It just confirms we're
on the right path. It seems like.
we just appreciate the kind words from Josiah.
Yeah, and thanks for connecting with him. That is really cool.
Yeah, that certainly was a surprise. You were right. It was.
Yeah, you've got a lot of surprises, Cindy.
Yeah, I try. Anything else you want to tell us about the song I Will Rise? Maybe the meaning behind the lyrics.
No matter your situation, no matter the darkness that you're in, like, you can rise from it. I think Kristen was talking about that earlier. Like, no matter the depths of darkness that you've been in, like, even going back to my story or her story, like, you can completely ruin your entire life. We don't encourage you to do that. We do not encourage you to do that, right? But if you have absolutely ruined your life, man, and it feels like, man, there's just no hope to you, like, restoring that, or that leveling out at any point, and it just feels like you're fighting tooth and nail to get ahead, there's hope for you. And you can absolutely rise from that. And you might not be able to fix everything on your own, but if you let Jesus into your life, if you go into the room and close the door behind you and speak to him and just have a conversation with Jesus, he will come into your life, and you will be able to rise from everything that you faced, no matter what it is. And we just truly believe that.
In the first verse, it just comes right out of the gate. Some of the first words is, waking up to a war. I met the devil at my door. And that just, to us, it just kind of paints a picture of, sometimes you can be going along and things might actually be great. Things might be going really well in your life. And then out of nowhere, just something just completely blindsides you that just turns your life upside down. It's scary. We want to put on this brave face and make it appear that, I'm just fine. Everything's okay, but inside you're just crushed. Sometimes you don't feel like you're going to make it out alive of that situation that you're in. And so it's a very honest song, because we want to bring to light that it's okay to be broken. It's okay to walk through those dark times, because they're going to happen. But the important thing is that getting through any kind of darkness is not something that we can do on our own. It's clearly through God, and that is how we make it out alive and rise from those ashes. And that's why we wanted the chorus to be more of an anthem. I will rise from that darkness. Yeah.
A lot of them do just come from an emotional side of us, or like things that we're personally battling or going through. The music video really helps paint a picture too. Like, there was some intention that went into that, obviously, like the red door. We want to kind of leave a mystery for people, for it to mean like whatever it means to people, Right. Incredible thing is that God was already using all of that before the music video ever came out. Like, literally showed a picture of me and Kristen standing in front of that door that the producer, his brother, took a picture of us in front of the door. And that's actually the one we use on all of our profiles now. But I had showed a girl that was struggling with addiction one day, and she was searching for Jesus, and I showed her that picture. Somehow she came across our picture, and it literally led her to Jesus. She had been praying out in the car for like 30 minutes and just crying in her car. She said, there's no way that you would have known this. She said, but I sat out in my car right before this 30 minutes ago. I was out in my car crying and screaming at the sky. And I just asked God to show me a door. And then I'm showing her like that picture, and it was quite literal, God showing you a door. But I share that with you. It's like, because we're just so excited for like God to be using our music to be able to reach people and to be able to hear really, really cool stories about what he's doing in their life, and like what the lyrics are meaning for people, and it could mean something totally different to them than what it meant to us, or the video,
I also asked Josiah if he was going to be working with you guys some more, and here's one more clip that I want to share.
More.
Oh my goodness.
I really love working with artists who have a strong vision for the kind of style and sound of their music, but also the message and kind of the heart behind it. And These Beautiful Ruins is definitely one of those kind of bands. So definitely looking forward to working together more with them. They've sent some other new songs over, so we've been kind of going back and forth, talking through, again, which one to pick, which ones to prioritize next. But guaranteed, it's going to be awesome. So look forward to that.
That is so cool, man.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
I guess the cat's out of the bag now.
Right.
We love you, Josiah.
Yeah.
If you're listening, we love you, dude. Like I said, we've got like a bunch of songs just resting in Dropbox right now, but super excited. A lot more to come.
Yeah.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much for all your support, Cindy, and for everything you all do.
It was great to meet you at Kingdom Come, and maybe we'll see you out there on the road again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I believe we
Hey,
will.
we're looking forward to next time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, good night.
Good night,
good
Cindy.
night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more great music and check out my blog page on the Solid Rock Radio website for my guests' social media links. If you've missed any of my past interviews, you can find them uploaded to podcast.solidrockradio.org. Have a wonderful week and let's be kind to one another.